So welcome back. This is my final video for the 31 Days of Tarot Challenge hosted by Ethony. I'll put a link to her blog down below. Actually, I don't know when I'm going to post this one. I just decided to do 3 videos in one day because, yeah, no Xfinity and there's no kids here because guess what? Their little meltdowns get picked up by this mic. I don't get it. So this one's actually going to be a little shorter because for the first, there's 3 days of it that it's like, well, 2 days. That's like, I really don't have anything for. And so this will be days 27 through 31, finishing it off. And so for day 31, it was strangest place you ever did a tarot reading. No place, no strange places, nothing to write home about. Day 28. Have you ever converted anyone to the dark side? No, I've never turned a non-tarot believing person into an enthusiast. No, never done that. So, get on to day 29, which is top 5 underrated tarot decks. So, what I'm interested in now, I mean, I've had wish lists in the past. Maybe I'll do an updated wish list here on this channel. I did one in my blog, well, last year before, I can't remember. And one of the things I'm looking at are more of the classic decks. Why is that? There are so many decks that come out, you know, you have all these new ones on Kickstarter and everything. You have Kickstarter and you have new ones coming out here and there and, you know, more modern, more, you know, inclusive, whatever. And I'm not saying those aren't important. They are. But I think sometimes we forget about the classic decks that for some people came out long before they were born. And just the importance of those decks in the kind of the scheme of things when it comes to tarot. And one of them, most of these are going to be Rider-Waite-Smith, except I think that one, oh, I don't know about that one. It's one I do love. But one that I think is underrated, and I don't know why people feel this way, is some people have an aversion to the Thoth deck. And a lot of it has to do with Crowley himself. Was he evil? I don't know. Was he a dick? Probably. I'm thinking Waite was too. It doesn't lessen what they did. I mean, what they did for tarot was amazing. They each came up with a separate system that is still used today. That these systems are, you know, 100+ years old. And it was a huge leap in the evolution of tarot with these 2 individuals. And of course the artist who brought their vision to life. So one of the things I think is underrated is the Thoth deck, because I think people have such an aversion to it. And you know, I think it is incredible. I mean, here's one of my copies of it. It's one that I'm going to study. Okay, that's like the stupidest fool card I've ever seen in my life. Can you see him? Focus, focus, focus. He looks like a derp. What the hell? I think some of the imagery is amazing. You got to remember that this deck came out in the 40s, I believe, originally. Well, that's when she did all the work. Oh, this is ominous. So I think just having a nice appreciation for this deck. I mean, yeah, it's pippish, but I think there's nothing. I mean, it's part of the history of tarot. Don't have an aversion to it. I think, you know, people, like, honestly, okay, that is probably the prettiest star card ever. Just gorgeous. I think this there's a uniqueness to this deck. And I think people shouldn't be afraid of it just because of Crowley. People should, even if it's not your art style, you should just, there should be some kind of appreciation for it. You know, it's, for a lot of people, it's love or hate, you know. A lot of people love the deck, and a lot of people hate it. And I think a lot of that hate either comes from the pips, that's pippish, or they don't like the art, or they don't like Crowley. So I think it is underrated. I think you do see it more. Sorry about my chair, Jesus Christ. I think people, you do see it a lot, you know, posted, but not as much as the newer decks. So that's why I'm giving it a shout out. Another deck that I'm going to give kind of a shout out to, that I think is underrated, that I have seen a few posts with it, not a lot, which is a bummer. It's not really a classic deck. I don't know when it first came out, but that's the Crystal Visions. I mean, it does seem like a softer deck, but I think with the color saturation, that's what makes it powerful. I think the saturation on this deck is amazing. There's movement within the cards, and you know, I admit that for some people it may not be exactly what they're looking for, but I think it can give you an appreciation. I mean, it doesn't have the greatest definition. I mean, you see some of the computer generated art decks like Tarot Illuminati, Marchetti's work. Yeah, but these are actual, you know, dropped a card. So I'm going to leave that on the floor, and hopefully I won't step on it. So I think Crystal Visions doesn't get enough, you know, airtime, pretty much. I think it's a great one. Another one, which is a classic deck, but I understand why some people don't like it, but I think it's an important one to have. Oh, crap. No, I'm not going to. One that I think is a classic is the Morgan Greer, too. But the Hanson Roberts. Yeah, a lot of people aren't going to really like the art. I get it. For one thing, this is the full size. It is a small, small deck. Look, my hand totally goes around it. Yeah, I have big hands. Some people don't like the fact that, you see this? Yeah. And it gets worse with the High Priestess, by the way. Oh, and I'll just show you the Wheel of Fortune. That's where you're like, oh, your titles suck. But I think, you know, beginners, you know, this is one, it's a great beginner deck. It's easy to read. I'll show you now what the images look like. Not everybody likes the art. I get that. But I think it's a classic, and I think it's one that, you know, you don't see all the time posted, or, you know, not see it all the time on Instagram and all that fun shit. It might seem a little dated, but it's a deck that I think is worthy, and, you know, it reads well. It's, yeah, classic. That's what I'm going with. A lot of classics. Another classic deck, and probably one of my my second go-to deck, is the Aquarian Tarot. This is the one, like I said, this came out in 1970. And so when you look at the art, yeah, it came out in 1970. But again, it's easy to read. Unlike the Morgan Greer, you do get more full body shot in here. Morgan Greer is more focused on the people, their faces, their expressions. So again, this artwork isn't for everybody, but it's a nice classic deck that reads well. And I think, you know, Not everybody has an appreciation for it. So that's why I think it's underrated. And I think it's probably because with a lot of these, it's people just like, oh, it's a new deck. Ooh, it's mass market. Ooh, get off your high horse. It's a classic. Go for it. Another one, which you don't see, I'm seeing a little bit, but not a lot. And I do love it. And it is, when I want to do shadow work, this is the one I go with. And I'll explain why. I mean, there's a lot of darker decks, especially, you know, there's newer ones, especially like the Darkness of Light. But this is mine that I go with. And that is the Night Sun Tarot by Fabio Listrani. I think he's supposed to be coming out with another deck. Now, the reason I like this, and I will show you my favorite. Okay, this was actually a stalker card. That is what, the Five of Wands? Yeah. Because what it showed me was all my little conflicts, all my little, everything that I'm pushing, they're all interconnected. And so I'm seeing, you see stuff like that. Oh, and like this Death card. I mean, this can be an upsetting kind of deck, to say the least. But then you have shit like this. And yeah, doesn't look that great. But you're picking out little aspects, little things that you're seeing within the cards that I think are wonderful. And I'm trying to find a good one. Oh, she sucks. It is a little bit pippish. There sometimes is a little bit on there to kind of give you some kind of understanding. But the images are powerful. And I think, you know, that can be difficult for some people. I'm not going to show that one. Oh, like, ew, that's the tower. That's kind of grotesque. And I think that upsets people. So, but when it comes to shadow work and kind of tapping into the unconscious and trying to get to the root, this is a really good deck to really work with. And I don't think, you know, people work with it enough. I think people gravitate towards the Deviant Moon, and I'm not dissing the Deviant Moon. I do have that deck. I love that deck. But, you know, people, when they go for the newer decks, they forget some of the older decks that really are powerful and really will give you good readings and really will tap into your intuition. And this is one of them. So that's my day 29, top 5 underrated tarot decks. Day 30, again, my notes are right here. What tarot card you feel best represents you and why? Okay, so I'm going to show you two. So I'm breaking the rules. Okay, this is from the Heart and Hands Tarot by Liz Blackbird. And it's probably my favorite card in that whole deck. And it's kind of how, like inside, this is how I feel. It's the Princess of Pentacles. Kind of hippie. Kind of loving it. That's sometimes how I feel. Just gazing off. I don't know. It's just, yeah. But one that is powerful and has a lot of meaning to me, and I've said this when I talked about getting a tattoo based on tarot, and I showed the Eight of Swords from the Naked Heart Tarot, the rose with the swords around it. And for, you know, let's back up a little bit. For me, having the confidence to do a lot of things has been elusive within my life. And as I'm getting older and I'm starting to get more, I am more confident in who I am and just kind of have like, fuck you if you don't like me. I don't really care. I used to always want to please. That's, you know, people pleaser kind of thing. And it kind of held me back and kind of kept me bound, and I didn't really fully express myself, and I didn't have that confidence to do so because I wasn't sure if people were going to appreciate it or want me to act like that. So I didn't express myself a certain way, and you know, And so the Eight of Swords has always been a card that always hits home for me. It's not one of my favorite cards in the deck, but it's always a card I really look at. And this is probably by far one of my favorites. One, I'm afraid of spiders. But at the same time, you get the idea for what's holding her back. And that is from the Legacy of the Divine Tarot. See, she's caught in a spider web. All the swords are pointing right at her. But the truth is, yeah, she may feel bound and she may feel like she can't escape. But escape is always possible. I do like that. There's the moon behind her. One of the other favorites I have is from the Deviant Moon as well. Look at the Eight of Swords. I know you probably have that deck, so just do it. Okay, so day 31. Tarot goals for 2020. Now I have kind of spoken about this in a previous video, not associated with the 31 days of tarot. And like right now, my comfort level is really around the Rider-Waite-Smith system, even though I'm not a big Rider-Waite-Smith deck fan, and I said that in the last video. That's why I showed the Trip and Wait, gave me an appreciation for it. But that's the system I'm most comfortable with. And again, I think it's important to broaden your knowledge of tarot by understanding the other systems. And so that is what my goal for 2020 is to start working within the Thoth system and get build my knowledge of the Thoth system. I have several decks that are Thoth based. My tummy's gonna growl, and I wonder. Okay, so I had to check because it's almost 2 o'clock, and I'm gonna have to pick up my brother. But yeah, learning the Thoth system, it may not be one that I always read with, and so that's fine. But again, it's having that appreciation for the history of tarot and learning that system, because what I found, like from going through the Tarot of the Spirit companion book, and that deck is Thoth based, or follows the Thoth system, and I have gone through part of Duquette's book, Understanding Crowley's Thoth Tarot. It did deepen my knowledge of the Rider-Waite-Smith system, and so that's something I want to work with, and that's what I plan on doing this year. Also, the Marseille system, because it is a different system, and it is kind of like the grandmother of the other two little systems, and it would be, so my knowledge of that one is very limited, and so I wish to deepen my understanding of the Marseille system and kind of see how it relates to the two that kind of evolved from it. So those are some of them. Also kind of, work more on my tarot journaling. I showed you my tarot journal. Sad. It needs work. And just start working more with my cards, and really looking at more of the other decks, because one of the things I think is really important is, I know some people, it's like they stick with one deck or they stick with one system. Well, your knowledge and your interpretation of the cards will broaden when you actually look at other decks and other systems, other decks within those systems, other decks within the system you're used to, because those interpretations that different artists have for the meanings of the cards, their symbology, it's, it makes you think. One of the things I noticed, like when Havana from Sparkle Divine Tarot did her favorite lovers card, she talked about more the energy of the card. Well, if you look at the Spacious Tarot, because then it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, now I get it. If you look at like the Spacious Tarot, might as well just pull it out, because it's still in order, because I still haven't worked with it. Shame on me. Again, it was a little bit of confusion, because all you see is this energy, but it's intertwining. And it's the idea of, you know, the energies of individuals, you know, kind of coming together. Another one in this deck, and again, this is where, you know, artwork is important. Where is it? Was this Devil card. I was dumbfounded. I was like, oh, I don't get it. And then one day it just kind of popped into my head. It's like, well, sometimes when we are caught up in our own ego and what is not good for us, and our addictions, or, you know, all these, you know, things that are keeping us from, you know, connecting with our higher self, connecting with spirit, what happens is we are basically in a dark forest and the light is off in the distance. And so how do you get to that light? It's going to be a struggle because you have to go through that dark forest. So, you know, that's the other thing too, is really start looking at, you know, decks that, like the Spacious Tarot, like my Dreams of Gaia, work a little bit more with my Osho Zen, to get, just kind of see where different interpretations go with different cards, and kind of just broaden my understanding of what the cards mean. It's not, you know, black and white. It's so intricate. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I mean, someone brought up in a thread in a group how they didn't like the kind of Christian-esque kind of feeling that some older decks have, like the Rider-Waite-Smith, and brought up the Six of Pentacles and talked about, you know, and then showed somebody, you know, giving donations, like a picture of someone bringing donations of food to a donation center. It's like, well, aren't these both, you know, representative of charity? Well, yes and no, but is that the only interpretation of that card? You know, there's 3 individuals in that card. Which individual are you focused on? Which individual, if you're doing the reading for yourself, which individual is you? Are you being charitable for your own gain, or are you being charitable out of the kindness of your heart? Are you the one receiving charity? Are you the one being ignored? I mean, so when we look at different cards and we look at different decks, it's important to learn from them, not just stick with one meaning and go from there. It's like you need to take everything and it'll all start to work together. And that's kind of what my goal for 2020 is just to expand how I see the cards. So anyway, so that was my day 31. That's the last of these videos. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching all of them. I really do appreciate it. I will be doing some more videos here soon. Squeaky chair. Tell me to spray it with WD-40. Put it in the comments because I'm going to freaking forget. One of the things I want to do, and it's specific to the Hanson Roberts Tarot, is because I have a soft spot for beginners, because I know what it was like to be one. I haven't forgotten. You know, going over some of the different Hanson Roberts decks and some other things, and start getting back into also maybe some of the witchy aspect of my channel, and some of the spiritual in bulk is coming up. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I said before, I'm not very big on, you know, Sabbats, but here we go. We're done with the 31 days of tarot. Thank you for watching, and much love and blessings. Bye.